All right, thank you so much for joining. This is our UCA&R Chart of Accounts review presented by BOC and Sweeper. So on this training, we're going to be going over our chart of account segments, our general ledger chart of accounts, and then a change we're having to our academic salary cost recovery for our current fiscal year 25 to 26. Some PPM chart of accounts. We're going to be going over Segmentor and Finjector tools and resources. So the first thing we're going to be going over is the chart of accounts or common chart of accounts segments. Our chart strings are long combinations of accounting information that are used to track expenses and revenue for each campus. Each segment contains a value that relates to a specific element of the chart of accounts, such as the fund or financial department. Right under here, we have an example of a UCA&R entity, fund, financial department, natural account, purpose, program, project, and activity. And that's just a sample of the general layout in which the chart string is done. Over here on the left, we do have our different segments and what they mean. So the first thing is going to be the entity, and the entity segment identifies a major organizational unit within the UC system. For UCA&R, this is always going to be 3310. So that is our go-to entity, 3310 for UCA&R. The fund is a segment that identifies the funding resources, and these resources or pots of money are classified based on designations and restriction types. The next segment is our financial department. So the financial department segment represents an academic or operating unit identified with an ongoing business objective aligned with UC Davis organization structure. So each county or admin unit has their own financial department number. This is also referred to as the expenditure organization. Next segment is going to be the natural account. So the natural account segment classifies the nature of the transaction as a specific type of revenue, expense, recharge, transfer, asset, liability, or net position. This value is going to change in your chart string based on what the expense is or what the revenue is. This is not going to be the same every time. Next segment is the purpose. The purpose segment is the functional classification of expenses for financial statements and other functional reporting, or for classifying revenues reflecting the mission of the university. The next segment is the program. The program segment records revenue and expense transactions associated with a formal, ongoing system-wide or cross-campus location, academic, or administrative activity that demonstrates UC Davis's mission of teaching, research, public service, and patient care. Next aspect of the chart string is the project. The project segment tracks financial activity for a body of work that often has a start and end date that spans across fiscal years. And then the final aspect of the chart string is the activity. The activity segment will track significant transactions which are recurring and take place at a point in time. And one thing to note is that not every COA or chart of account has every single one of these values filled in. Some of these values based on the chart string are going to be a default 0 values. So first we're going to be going over the general ledger, also referred to as the GL. So the types of funds that are managed in the GL, these are our central funds. These are going to be advisor support, additional advisor support, new advisor startup, CE specialist program support, new CE specialist startup, community educator support, UCCE unit and director general support, and newly our academic salary cost recovery for our current fiscal year 25-26. This was previously managed as a PPM, but just this fiscal year for 25-26 onward, it will be managed in the GL. And just to note, using the correct COA with its assigned segments ensures that our ledgers are accurate. It makes it easier to track expenses and balances, and it supports better decision making throughout the year. So at any point, if you have any question about if you are using the correct COA, always reach out to your business partner team and we can help you out. So here's an example of GL's chart strings for central funds, kind of at a glance. So over on the left here is going to be the different accounts. So advisor support, additional support, startup, CE program support, community educator support, unit director support, and then academic salary cost recovery. So all of them, of course, have the same entity, 3310 for UCANR. They may have different fund numbers. It'll have your financial department. The natural account, of course, will vary. The purpose for all of these is 62. Program is sometimes going to be filled out, especially for your advisor support. A program does need to be listed, but in the rest of the accounts, that is listed as a default 0 value. Your project, the GL project does need to be filled in for some of these accounts. And then your activity will vary based on the account as well. So this is just a general chart that you can keep or print out just to reference for GL chart strings for central funds. So for advisor support, your regular advisor support is going to have the fund 21050, your financial department, natural account will vary, purpose of 62, one of your programs, for example, WTR, IPM, PPS, WLS. Those are just some examples. Your GL project number, and then the activity code of 200538. The one-time additional advisor support, which advisors received last year and again this year, has a different fund, 19976. You do not need to put a program in this one. You do include the GL project, and the activity code is 900173. So for regular advisor support, that is going to be $2,000 per fiscal year, which expires on June 30th of that fiscal year. The fund is the 21050. They're federal funds. You'll always use a program. And again, here's some example of those programs. And then it will be the GL project of the advisor. And that structure is typically GL, your organization or unit, and then 4 digits. For example, GLALAM, that would be for Alameda County, and then 0520. And the activity is going to be the 200538, which is for faculty support. The additional advisor support, the $2,000 per fiscal year that you received last year and will did receive again this year for 25-26. It also expires June 30th. These are 19976 state funds. You'll need the GL project, and the activity code is 900173. For advisor startup funds, you'll of course have your 3310 entity, your 19978 state funds, your financial department, and then the natural account will vary. 62 for the purpose. Program is the default zeros, your GL project number, and then the activity is 202012. So 202012 or 2012. So that is the activity for the faculty startup, and these expire in 3 years. So June 30th of that third fiscal year is when those expire. CE specialist startup. So of course, entity 3310. The fund is 19941. These are unrestricted funds. Your financial department, your natural account, purpose of 62. Program is the default zeros. Your GL project number, and the activity code is 202130. That's the activity for CE Specialist Startup. Community Educator Support. Your entity is 3310. The fund is 19976 for state funds. Your financial department, natural account, 62 is the purpose. The program and the project are default. These are always going to be the default 0 for these accounts. There are 3 values in the program and 10 values for the project. And the activity is 900061. It is $1,000 per CES, and it expires June 30th of that fiscal year. For unit and director general support, the entity, of course, 3310, it is 19974 state funds, the financial department, natural account, purpose is 62, and the following fields are all default zeros: program, project, and activity. Again, 3 zeros for program, 10 zeros for project, and 6 zeros for activity. Each county has a permanent set amount. For area directors, allocation is done to the home financial department of the area director, and all counties under that area director need to use that specific financial department, not their own. And these expire June 30th of that fiscal year. For academic salary cost recovery, this used to be managed in the PPM, but it is now managed in the GL for this current fiscal year 25-26, and so on. The fund is 19978 state funds. Your financial department, natural account, purpose is 62. The program is the default zeros. Your project will be the GL project number, so your GL, your organization or unit, and then 4 digits. And the activity is 26 EXPS. And these expire in 2 years, so June 30th of that second fiscal year. As I mentioned before, the academic salary cost recovery for fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25 will stay in the PPM until those funds are expended or expired. And those chart strings in the PPM were the faculty project, organization, and the 4 digits. So FP, for example, if we use this same example here, it would be FP ALAM 0520, and then the task would be ACR 024 or 025. So to go over, this is a good segue into our PPM project portfolio management chart strings. So the types of funds that are managed in the PPM are those previous ASCR funds, conference funds, income funds, gift funds, endowment funds, internal awards, and research and education funds. And the values after these different types of funds are your task numbers. So CNF for conference 001, INC for income, GFT for gift, and so on. So all A&R advisors and CE specialists have a faculty project, and this is how that naming structure is done. FP for faculty project, your organization, and then your 4-digit hire date. So for example, FP ALAM 1001, that would be John Smith, who started with UCCE Alameda on October 1st. Counties and statewide programs and institutes have a department project. The naming structure of this is DEP rather than FP. That stands for department project. DEP, your organization, and 001. For example, it'd be DEP HUMB 001 for Humboldt County, DEP IPMP 001, DEP IGIS 001. So it's just helpful to know the 4 digits that refer to your organization to figure out what chart strings. So here's an example of PPM faculty project task structure. So in this project for Sutter Yuba, it's FP SUTY 6114. These are all of the task numbers associated with that project. So all of the previous ACR, or academic salary cost recovery, we've got 1 gift task, an internal award, and a research and education task. Here is the task structure for department project. This is just an example for Lake County, DEP Lake 001. The expenditure organization, that would be the same as your financial department, 9923225. The expense type, of course, varies. That's the natural account. And then your task. So under DEP Lake, we've got 2 conference accounts, 1 endowment, 10 gift accounts, 1 internal award, several income accounts, and then 1 research and education account. So UCANR Aggie Enterprise Portal, the GL's chart string is always represented in the following format, which we went over earlier: the entity, the fund, the financial department, the natural account, purpose, program, project, and activity. The PPM chart string is always represented in the following format, which is also called the POET abbreviation of the PPM chart string. That would be your project, expenditure org, expense type, and task. And as a reminder, expenditure org is the same thing as your financial department, and expense type is the same thing as that natural account, which will vary based on the expense or revenue. And then remember, entity is the constant value with UCANR of 3310. Next, I'm going to be going over some tools and resources that you can use called Segmentor and Finjector, which can both be found on the UCANR Aggie Enterprise webpage. And I do recommend that when you visit this webpage that you do bookmark both Finjector and Segmentor if you're going to be needing to look up chart strings often. So the first tool is Segmentor. This tool was developed to facilitate the creation and validation of common chart of account chart strings, which can then be entered into Aggie Enterprise and then related boundary applications. So this tool does operate independently from the Aggie Enterprise system. The values and validation rules used by Segmentor are the same as those in Aggie Enterprise. So for example, in these pictures we have on the left, general ledger, you would type in all of these values to see if they validate. On the right, you can type in the PPM project. Some other values should fill in automatically, see if it validates. And then for an example, if you do not know your financial department number, you can just type in the name of your unit or county, and then that number will pop up. So an example of a valid GL chart string is on the left. You've filled in all those values and hit validate chart string. Those green check marks are going to show up on either side of the chart string, telling you that this is a valid chart string. On the right-hand side, here's an example of an invalid chart string. When you type in all those values and hit validate, and you get a message like this, it'll tell you usually what is wrong with that chart string. So in this example, they typed in 50 for purpose. We do not have a purpose of 50. It does not exist. So it is telling you that that is the reason this is an invalid chart string. And for an example in the PPM, you can type in all these values on the left. You can either type the PPM POET or UC Path PPM. Either way is going to get you the info that you need, although UC Path PPM has a lot more information for all the segments of the chart string, and that one is valid. Over on the right-hand side, we have an example of an invalid chart string, wherein the chart string may be correct, but it's telling you in the message, task income 001, today's date is not within the task start and completion dates, so that's telling you that this project is expired. Finjector is a different tool to help you organize your department's Aggie Enterprise chart strings. And it is a manual process that chart strings are placed within a folder by the fiscal officer labeled either GL for general ledger or PPM for project portfolio management. The GL chart strings are going to show up in that yellow gold color, and PPM is going to show up in that blue color. And folders are grouped by teams. each with a list of users and permissions. So if you're in Finjector and you cannot find an account that you need or a folder that you need, please just reach out to your BOC team and we'll make sure to get you access so you can see the info that you need. So there's one folder per county, one folder per advisor, one folder per CE specialist, one folder per program or institute within Sweeper, and one folder per department in our admin units. Here's an example of a homepage for Finjector. Any one person may not have all of these teams, but you should have access to the teams that you need to do your job. So that is an example of what the homepage looks like. And then if we go into one of those teams, click on one of the folders and one of the chart strings, this is just an example of what will come up for a PPM chart string. It's going to give you all of the segments of the chart string, what they represent, the project manager, the type, the start and end date, and the status. So this is a very helpful tool. Next thing I'm going to be going over is a UCCE funding allocations. Here is the page on our website under our fund management section. The funding allocations are going to be found under there, and it's going to go over in detail the types of allocation. So academic salary cost recovery, advisor startup, advisor support, CES support funds, and unit and director general support. Here on this page, we do have some resource links for you to follow. So we've got our IWP UCANR Aggie Enterprise website, our report feedback tool, the chart of accounts enterprise structure document, our Aggie Enterprise sign-in link, our resource page on our website, guidelines for the chart of account naming conventions, and then a button to email our support or help desk. Thank you so much for attending this training. If you have any follow-up questions, please reach out to your BOC team, and the resources from this training will be under the link for this training on our website. Thank you so much.